Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mark Brantley, and I'm welcoming you to another edition of On the Mark, real talk across the Narrows. Each Wednesday, we come here between the hours of 8 and 10 to have a discussion with you, to put matters that we think are of public interest on the table, and to invite your discussion. Oftentimes, of course, you have your own issues, and you're free to put those on the table as well. This is a show which is unique in all of St. Kitts and Nevis because it is commercial free for 2 hours. 2 hours of primetime radio. We have been able to do this over the last dozen years or so through the kind sponsorship of Daniel Brantley, law firm here in Nevis, and we have done this over that period of time. I think the show is also unique because it's one of the shows where we invite all shades of public opinion. Opposition and government alike have had the opportunity to share their views and opinions on any number of issues that impact our beloved island and wider federation. Tonight I have no guests, so I will be here just by myself. I want to start, as I always do, by saying good evening to the people of Nevis, those of St. Kitts, those of the wider Caribbean who routinely listen. I want to send a special shout out to all of our friends and family throughout St. Martin and Anguilla, through Montserrat and Saba and Statia, through the United States Virgin Islands and the British Virgin Islands. I want to especially say hello to my good friend Ronald Roach Maynard there in St. Thomas, and of course the man Cecil Farrell, better known as Shark, my very dear friends. I want to say over in BVI, hello to Zanki and the guys there, and to all the members of NAPS and all the good people who have over the years done sterling service for the people of Nevis in those areas. I want to say good evening to one and all, wherever you are. The good families and friends in St. John's USVI. I know St. John's has a whole heap of Brown Hill people. I want to say good evening to you as well. Good evening to all of the nationalities that exist here in Nevis, those who hail from other places in the Caribbean and in the world who have made Nevis their home. I want to thank you for making Nevis your home. I want to thank you for the contribution that you've been making. I want to encourage you to continue to invest and continue to make your contribution to building our island and making it the best place in the world to live, to work, to do business. Good evening to all of our friends and family in the United States of America. We have a huge listenership, we know, along the eastern seaboard. Places like New York City, New Jersey, of course, Connecticut, places like Boston. I know we regularly have listeners, and I want to say good evening to all of you. Good evening to those in Florida, those, of course, in Atlanta. I know that my dear friend Ursula often tunes in. I want to say good evening to her. And good evening to Marvin and the entire family in Atlanta, Georgia. Good evening to them because they, too, tune in regularly. I especially want to say good evening to those in the United Kingdom, those elsewhere who, again, tune in regularly to this show and who stay up, it's 4 hours difference, to listen to On the Mark each Wednesday. I am truly grateful that you have stayed with us all these years and that you continue to stay with us. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I come here every Wednesday. I am, of course, privileged at this point in time in our history to lead the Concerned Citizens Movement, a political party of some 30 years, and I'm privileged also at this point in our history to lead the island of Nevis as the 4th Premier of the island. This On the Mark has evolved in a way because, of course, my positions have evolved. And my positions meaning the position that I hold in terms of office. I started this show when I was someone in opposition. I'm just starting out in a political career. And I've continued this show despite getting into government initially as Deputy Premier and now as Premier, duly elected by the people of Nevis. Many thought that I should discontinue the show. They said that it's not good for someone in my position to expose myself in this way and to have the open lines and people being able to call in and freely speak about whatever it is they wish to speak about. I take a different view. It is my view that as a servant of the people, we must never be afraid to face the people. And whilst that can sometimes be uncomfortable because people have very strong views, it is the ultimate form of democracy to be able to come and to question your leaders and to say to them the things that you wish to say. I only encourage our people to be respectful at all times, to be respectful of each other. And if we must disagree, which happens as well, let us not be disagreeable. And so we have continued with this show despite the change in times and fortunes. And I'm hopeful that we can continue this show because I think it serves a useful purpose. And that purpose is to continue this sense of dialogue and discussion in our country, this sense that communication, talking to each other, can solve problems, it can highlight problems, it can produce solutions, and if we're willing to listen to each other, we can make Nevis a better place. And that is why I have come time and time again. It is not always easy. Often I'm tired. Often I ask colleagues to fill in for me. Sometimes they themselves cannot. And you would have realized in the last few weeks we've had to resort to rebroadcasting shows, and I do apologize for that, but sometimes it is unavoidable. What I can pledge is that so long as I'm available, so long as I have strength, I will be here. And I will be here because I believe that what we're doing is important. I believe that you having an opportunity to pick up your phone and having the relative anonymity of your home, your bed, your armchair, and calling in from wherever you are in the world and making your point, that there's value in that, and that there's value to our democracy as we mature. Now, speaking of the maturity of our democracy, we had a recent case which I think is a landmark in many ways. Many have sought to cast the case in terms of politics. I'm not interested in that. I have said, and I continue to say, that there's a time for politics. That time is coming, but perhaps it is not here just yet. I am more interested in governance and what happens in relation to governance. Now, apparently some young man in St. Kitts who works for the public service decides that he wants to be a candidate in the upcoming election, and a candidate to run against the sitting government. Now there are laws in place and regulations in place. Those laws and regulations, let me make it clear, were not put in place by this government of which I'm privileged to be a part. To the contrary, they were put in place in 2014 when a different government held the reins at the federal level. And so the young man, faced with those regulations which forbade his political activities whilst he was a member of the public service and working in the public service, decided that he would challenge the 2014 law. He went to the court and he challenged that law, saying that that law infringed on his constitutional right to association, to have his political views, and to be able to contest an election if he so desired. I am advised that the court ruled in his favor that the 2014 law was unconstitutional, and therefore has given the green light for this young individual to proceed to be a candidate in the election. Now, the politics, of course, has started. Just like Carnival, when the clowns come out, so too the politicians come out, and they have been prancing and all about the place saying all manner of things. I am not too interested in that, because if this matter is viewed through a political lens, all that it has said is that a law passed by Labour was challenged by a potential Labour candidate and struck down. If there's a victory in that for Labour, I am not sure what that victory is. I prefer to see it in the context of the rule of law. I came here some weeks ago and I made heavy weather of the fact that St. Kitts and Nevis was viewed by an independent body, having looked at 126 countries across the globe, that we were number 30 in the world. Number 30 in the world, and number 2 in the Caribbean, second only to Barbados and second only by 1 point. I thought that that was a significant achievement by the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And in any mature democracy, the rule of law has to be a principal pillar on which the country is constructed. Some sought to belittle, as they do, for any good news for the country, belittle this achievement. But here we are now, fast forward, where this young man has gone to the court of law, challenged a law that was passed in the parliament, and asserted in the court of law his right to be involved in politics. The court of law has ruled and said he does, in fact, have that right. And we as a government have said that that is the ruling of the court. I say that to say this, that decision vindicates the independent international assessment of St. Kitts and Nevis as being a leader in respect for the rule of law internationally. Let me say it again. That decision vindicates the international assessment of St. Christopher and Nevis as being a leader in the world in respect for the rule of law. Now, why is that important? It tells us that whether you are political friend or foe, whether you're for or against, whether you're rich or poor, whether you're king or commoner, that the law applies to everyone. And that the law applies equally to all of us, you and I. That is the essence of the rule of law, that no man is above the law. And that, ladies and gentlemen, has played out in our court. That has played out and been made pellucid to all who may look and all who fairly consider what is happening in this country. Now, I will be the first to admit, as the Premier of Nevis, but also as the Minister with responsibility for foreign affairs at the federal level, that the country has problems. We have problems with crime. We have problems with unemployment. We have problems with our youth. We have problems with the coasting of our society that we have seen that has happened over the decades. We have difficulties of poverty, difficulties within our education system, our healthcare sector. We have difficulties. But nobody ever promised us a perfect life. And I challenge you out there who might be listening, whether you're here or you're abroad, tell me the person or the country or the government that does not have difficulties. Difficulties are a part of our very being and our very existence. And that is why we all hope that when we die, we will go to a better place where we will not have those difficulties. After all, what will be the purpose of heaven if we had it here on earth already? And so that is the reality that we face. But whilst we have difficulties, we also live in a country with considerable advantages, benefits, and much that we can be proud of. Too often, as we get consumed with the politics and the tit-for-tat that passes for political discourse in our country, that we forget that St. Kitts and Nevis does have attributes of which we can and should be proud. We are a country that is small in size, small in population, geographically perhaps insignificant, but we are a country that has produced sons and daughters of considerable weight and considerable international reputation. We have, as a country, achieved much. We take for granted so much in St. Kitts and Nevis that one never sees anywhere else. It may sound odd to you, but the very fact that your Premier is on radio tonight talking with you is demonstrative of one of the things that we take for granted in our country that does not avail in other countries. Doesn't happen. People don't have this kind of access. And I am saying that whilst we talk about the bad and we seek solutions to make that situation or those situations better, so too we must be quick to talk about the good about our country. It is a patriotic thing to do. And oftentimes, if we take a step back from the day-to-day partisan politics and we look at what is happening in the country, we look at the good that is happening in the country, we look at the efforts that are being made to make what is bad better, and we continue, ladies and gentlemen, to work together. That is all we can do. And as the playwright says, all of life is a stage. We have our entrance and our exits. And so we are assured that at some point we will make our exit. I am here today as the Premier of Nevis. It was not always so. Vance Amory before me was a Premier of Nevis. That is no more. Joseph Parry before him was a Premier of Nevis. That is no more. Sir Simeon Daniel before him was a Premier of Nevis. That is no more. And so too at some point you will speak of Mark Brantley as Premier of Nevis in the past tense, because that will be no more. That is the human condition, and that is our reality. We need not be afraid of it. If we understand the way that life works, we understand that the playwright is correct, that we make our entrance, and we will certainly make our exit. And what is important is that when we are on the stage, we do the very best that we can for our people. We do the very best that we can to serve, sometimes making difficult decisions in difficult circumstances. But if we're guided by principle, we're guided by our conviction, we're guided by what a leader should do, which is to lead for all, I believe at the end of the day, those who are charged with writing the history will say that when that person was on the stage, they did their best. And if we have done our best, then certainly there's no more that we can do. And so, that case for me is not about politics. That case for me is about the rule of law and a vindication that we live in a country where anybody who feels aggrieved can go to the court and seek redress. A vindication that our courts are independent, that our courts are strong. And I challenge those who from time to time comment on matters impacting our country and who point out all the ills, and yes, there are ills to be sure, to also comment on the good things that are happening in our country. The very good things that are happening in the rule of law, in respect for the Constitution, and what we are seeking to do in our country to lift up our people. Nobody, ladies and gentlemen, is perfect. I will admit that I have had my own difficulties. But we try our best. And I'm always reminded when they are gathered, stones in hand, to crucify, the words of Scripture, when those sanctimonious vagabonds were seeking to stone this woman, Jesus himself said, "He who is without sin, let him cast the first stone." And slowly each slunk away to his or her home, knowing that he had not the moral authority to stone this woman. There are lessons all around us if only we would learn, if only we would accept, if only we would pay attention. There are lessons all around us as to how we ought to live and serve and then move on. Because move on we must. And so, for all of those who are in politics, who want to get into politics, who are in leadership positions in business and industry, who lead organizations and community groups, who feel somehow that they're cemented in place and that someone has ordained them leader for life, I say to you, learn that all of life is a stage. And so we make our entrances, so too we will make our exits. And prepare ourselves for that exit. Because just as night follows day, it will come when it will come. And so we need not, in my view, get too caught up in a lot of what passes for political debate and discussion in the country. We must try our best to seek high ground and to be people of principle. We will not always have consensus or agreement because that is the nature of democracy. It is messy sometimes, but it is yet the purest form that we have yet discovered of one man, one vote, one woman, one vote, speaking to what we want and having governments, as we say, by the people and for the people. That is ultimately what we seek to do. And so let us learn the valuable lessons and let us take away from what is happening in our country the good and celebrate the good while at the same time seeking to remedy the bad. And that is what, as the Premier of Nevis, I have sought to do. I'm very pleased to announce that through the Honorable Sam Terence Conda in New York, our High Representative and Ambassador to the United Nations, that we have in recent times signed a visa waiver agreement with the African country of Togo. And that with that signing, we have now moved to 21 new countries that our citizens around the world can travel to without a visa. In 2014, the Canadian government visited upon us a situation where they removed a privilege and a benefit that we had enjoyed for decades prior. That privilege was the ability to go freely to Canada, to see family and friends, or even to enjoy Caribana. Whatever their reasons for so doing, they did it, and all of us have suffered as a consequence. Some might have gone into some state of depression over it, might have said, woe is me, the sky is falling. But this government charged me as Minister of Foreign Affairs to go and seek other alliances and other countries. And we have recognized in so doing that there is a wide world out there, that there are countries big and small that exist that are not called the United States of America or Canada or the United Kingdom, that there are countries in Asia and in Africa, countries large and small with which we can forge alliances. And so, as Foreign Minister, my task was this: to improve ties with existing friends and to find new friends for St. Kitts and Nevis. I am pleased that in the 4 years that I've been privileged to sit as Foreign Minister, we have signed diplomatic relations with an additional 30 countries, and we have signed visa waiver arrangements with an additional 20 countries. We are moving in the right direction. And each country that says to us that you can now come without let or hindrance across our borders is a country that says to us that we have confidence in your government, we have confidence in your country, we have confidence in the safety and security that exists in St. Christopher and Nevis. We have confidence that your country poses no risk or threat to us. We have confidence that you are a serious nation playing your part in this world, and we are prepared to partner with you. I am to say thanks to the government and people of Togo. Just as in the past we've said thanks to the government and people of Sierra Leone, of Kenya, of Rwanda, and of Ghana. The people of the Gambia and Zambia, the people who have said to us from Indonesia, Brazil, Russia, your people can come without let or hindrance. They can come because we feel that we have the necessary confidence in them. And ladies and gentlemen, with every country that we add to that list, the passport of St. Kitts and Nevis grows ever stronger as a document that, when presented to borders around the world, to countries large and small, border agent says, come. Without let or hindrance, come. You are welcome. We have negotiated such arrangements with Taiwan. We've negotiated such arrangements with countries large and small. And we're saying that this is a signal achievement of this government. And I am very proud to be leading a ministry at this time which could have achieved such. I go back to where I started. There are some good things that are happening in our country. There are many good things that are happening in our country. And we can always choose to focus on the bad that does exist, or we can choose to highlight the good that exists in our country. And I'm content that we continue to do our best, being on the stage as we are at this time, and until the electorate or God himself decides differently. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I see now people engage in machinations of different kinds. Politics and politicians saying and doing whatever they feel they must say and do. I say this to you, that he who spends his time obsessing about holding on to power is most likely to lose power. It is the quickest way. And he who spends his time obsessing about gaining power is most likely never to gain power. Because power cannot be an end in itself. Power must be a means to an end. And that means to that end must be the service of our people. And so I make that pellucid, and I make that clear, and I make that crystal clear. That is where we are. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we had the very devastating news that we have lost an icon here in Nevis, a businessman of long standing, Mr. Noel Liebert. I think everyone knew him. I've never heard an ill word said about him. We know his children, we know his family. And I would want to join the multitude in extending my condolences to his family. Junior, if you're listening, Noella, if you're listening, I know those two children best. Marva, if you're listening, I want to send my condolences because I have had reason to deal with Noel over the years. I know at election time, for example, we often go to him to rent vehicles, and he has always treated me with respect. He has always been someone reliable. I know he has friends like Huckett and those guys in New York who he has had a long history and relationship with. And I believe all of us have been shocked by this development. It is, however, said that the only thing certain in life is death. And sometimes death reminds us all that all the pompous setting that we do, the running around and beating our chests and saying who is better and who is this and who is richer and who is more powerful, that death is ultimately the great leveler. Because no matter how many cars or homes you owned, no matter how much money you had in the bank, whether you were rich or poor, whether you were king or commoner, that the grave awaits us all. And in that way, if we realize that these are the truisms of life, we would, I think, conduct ourselves better when we are on the stage and before our exit. Noel, in my view, was a good man. In my interactions with him, I have never found fault in him. And I would want to extend my deep condolences to his family and to say to them, as I often say, that it is my fervent hope that the prayers of the multitude will comfort them in their hour of bereavement. There is nobody who can tell you how you feel at this point in time. I have gone through it twice with my mother and my father. And no one can quite understand. Each person grieves in his or her own way. All we can do is to pray that over time healing will come and sorrow will be less. And so please accept my heartfelt condolences from all of us here at Von Radio and On the Mark. Today, we saw the launch of a very important conference at the Four Seasons, spearheaded by Madam Minister Hazel Brandy Williams. I would want to applaud her publicly for her continued effort to create gender awareness, gender equality, and to promote young people, women and girls in particular, and to ensure that all of society here in Nevis plays their role. We have that conference which will go on for the next few days. In fact, tonight I gather they're having a cocktail ceremony at Nisbet. I could have been there, of course, but I asked for their forgiveness because I thought that I needed to be here with you. But I think that conference is an important conference. It's an international conference. put on by the United Nations in collaboration with the island of Nevis. It's the second time that it is happening. And I'm delighted that it has attracted delegates from all over the OECS, people who have come to share their views as we seek to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Nevis, ladies and gentlemen, despite its size, continues to punch well above its weight. Nevis is not limited by its geography or population. Nevis, just like our people, is limited only by the extent of its ambitions. And I want our people to believe in Nevis, believe in this island, because I believe that this island can do and will do great things. We have produced great sons and daughters, and we will continue to do so, because we are imbued with the spirit of greatness. We're imbued with the spirit of greatness. Let us never forget that which has birthed us and that which has given us life. And so I am delighted that this conference has come, and I'm trusting and hoping that it goes from strength to strength. Tomorrow, I believe, is Thursday. And tomorrow, the Deputy Premier and Minister of Agriculture, the Honorable Alexis Jeffers, has said that we will have the biggest extravaganza that the island has ever seen. We are inviting people from far and near, our friends and families in St. Kitts. We are asking you to come over. People, I'm told, are coming from Statia and St. Martin and elsewhere for the 25th staging of the Agricultural Open Day. So big is this event that they've moved it from where it has traditionally been at the Villa Grounds now to the ETW Park. I'm told that all the booths are sold out. I'm told that there's more demand than supply. I'm told that they expect thousands of people to descend. And I believe that it will be a wonderful showcase of all that we're doing here in Nevis in terms of agriculture and food security. I am delighted for the Honorable Alexis Jeffers. He is my Deputy Premier. He's the Deputy Premier of this country. He has done exceedingly well in terms of the portfolios that he has been charged to administer. And I'm happy to celebrate with him the 2 days and his team. Huey Sargent, the Permanent Secretary, Randy Elliott, the Director of Agriculture, and the entire team for what they have done and what they will continue to do in the service of the people of Nevis. I'm therefore inviting one and all to come out tomorrow and Friday and be a part of this extravaganza that is to unfold at the ETW Park. Agricultural Open Day. It promises to be truly something phenomenal. Ladies and gentlemen, there is so much happening. We were able just yesterday to have an occasion with our Special Olympians. These young people went all the way to the United Arab Emirates, to Abu Dhabi, and they came back with medals galore. Indeed, I believe of the athletes that went from Nevis, we saw 4 gold medals, if my memory serves, and 2 silver medals. Each athlete that went from Nevis medaled. I am particularly impressed with young Lavanda Forbes from Hamilton. Not because her mom is my dear friend. Hyacinth, good night to you. But because Lavanda said to me in her own words, when I asked her, Lavanda, you got a goal for bocce. What is bocce? And she said she never played bocce once in her life until she went to Abu Dhabi. I want you to think about that for a minute. That Lavanda Forbes from Hamilton went to Abu Dhabi, played bocce, B-O-C-C-E. Don't ask me what it is. Go and look it up, because I had to go and look it up myself. Lavanda went and played bocce for the first time in Abu Dhabi and won gold. Beat the world. When I talk about Nevisians being imbued with a spirit of greatness, we small, as we say, but we talawa. I want you all to think about that. For the first time, she played bocce and beat the world and got a gold medal. Praise be to God. I'm delighted that Minister Eric Evelyn and Minister Troy Liburd, Ministers of Sport and Education, respectively, that they were able to come together and organize this wonderful, wonderful event, a reception for the athletes when they arrived, but also a mini motorcade and a reception at the Cicely Brown Integrated School. I was unable, because of other duties, to join them for the motorcade, but I did show up at the end of the reception and had an opportunity to greet and to thank these athletes who have really made us proud. And I want, on behalf of a grateful people tonight, to say thank you to them for going to Abu Dhabi and for making us proud. As I continue to celebrate with our people, let me also celebrate Mr. Richard Ricky Skerritt from St. Kitts, who has emerged as the first person from St. Kitts and Nevis to be the chairman of the West Indies Cricket Board. I think they call it Cricket West Indies now, and the individual who is chair will be the individual to guide cricket over the foreseeable future. He came up against the incumbent, a chap called Cameron, Dave Cameron, and Ricky won convincingly, 8 votes to 4. And I am to commend him. I had sent private commendations, but I do so publicly as well, for achieving such heights, and to encourage him to do all that he can to restore Windies cricket to the glory days and to the pride of place that it has always held in the minds and hearts of the people of the Caribbean. It is for him now to navigate the difficult waters and to take the baton from Mr. Cameron and to move forward with West Indies cricket. St. Kitts Nevis, small country, 54,000 people, now has the head of West Indies cricket hailing from our island, from our country, from the smallest of nations in our hemisphere. And I continue to speak about our greatness as a people, and the fact that we are limited not by size or circumstance of birth. We are limited only by the extent and the ambit of our ambitions. And so, ladies and gentlemen, there is much good that we can celebrate. Let us choose to focus on what is good and great. Let us not seek to denigrate our country, to call it down, and to only be preoccupied with what is wrong. I end this soliloquy, my usual monologue, by inviting one and all from St. Kitts and Nevis to come out to the inter-primary sports that will be held, is it the 3rd? 3rd of April. It will be a half holiday, and from what I'm seeing, it will be a ding-dong battle. We will have, of course, all the schools, the primary schools in Nevis competing. It is the single largest sporting event in St. Kitts and Nevis. And it is well into, I believe, its 27th year. And it will be staged at our Munda facility right there at Long Point. We're asking one and all to come out, consistent with it being a child-friendly event. We have been declared that there will be no alcohol sold inside, and anybody going outside to find alcohol will not be allowed to bring it inside the venue. We're asking vendors to understand that these are children and it is a child-friendly event and a child-friendly atmosphere. We expect one and all to come out. We pray for good weather, and we pray that the best team will win. I know my partner Eddie is coming with the green team from St. Thomas's. I know the Orange Army of Charlestown Primary is ready. I also know that Ivor Walters is ready, that EPPS is ready, that Joycelyn Liburd is ready. I know that Maud Cross is not going to be left behind, nor will St. James Primary, or, of course, VOJN, Violet O. Jeffers Nichols Primary. The schools are all ready. They will come and they will do of their very best. And how can I forget the other 2 schools? We have a private primary school right here The name just slips me for the moment, forgive me. But right here at Bass Plain, and I'm sure that they will be a part of it as well. And Montessori, I think that's the other school I'm looking for, that is right there on the Pump Road. And so we look forward certainly to all of these schools. I believe that school is called Bellevue, if memory serves. It used to be in any event. But all these schools are going to come forward and give up their best. And we certainly thank the teachers, we thank the coaches, we thank the parents. We know that people take this seriously, and we're asking everyone to be there early. I'm told that the activities start at noon. And I've said to Minister Leiber, the Minister of Education, who is principally charged with this event, to make sure that any opening ceremony is as short as possible. Because I know that people have not come there to hear speeches, they've come to see the athletes. And so with those, perhaps more than few words, I want to thank each and every one of you for being part of the show tonight. If you're listening at home and abroad, I want you to call. The numbers are 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. We're going to open the lines now and take your calls, see what you have to say to us. You can share your own views on anything that I've said, or for that matter, to put your own matters on the table. I thank you for the privilege of being here with you, the privilege of having this conversation now for over a decade with you, and may it continue until it is my time to exit the stage. Let's go to the phones and take your calls. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Good evening, Ms. Sheriff.
Good evening to you.
Good evening, my Premier. Proverbs 2, verse 1 and 2. My son, if thou wilt receive my word, and hide my commandments with thee, so that thou is incline thy ears unto wisdom, and applying thine heart to understanding. Sympathy is going out to the Libert family at Morning Star and farms on the passing of the Commander of Chief, Noel Libert, according to Webo. Tell it to Jesus alone. Mark, left everything to God. What you can do, God and do. You hear what I tell you? So no worry yourself. And lot of things going on down and think it's down there in the courthouse, but left everything to God, I tell you. All right, good night.
All right.
Good night to my nephew in Canada and my cousin over there in Prospect. Good night.
How, before you go, hello?
Yeah.
How are things looking for Interprimary? You have any? You know
about my grandson?
Well, that's what I'm asking you. I know you have a top athlete.
Yes, I got a topper one too, and they never really put him there. Peria, with the heaviest champion, he and the boy Javed.
Yes,
well, never really do that.
Well, I know about them.
I see that on Facebook.
But I'm talking about the youngsters now.
Oh, well, yeah. I got 3 of them I go run.
I
tell it to Jesus. They're going to come.
All right. Thank you very much, as usual.
Yeah.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, you listen to On the Mark. The numbers again are 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. It is quarter to the hour of 9 o'clock. We're inviting your calls. And we know that some people like to call and they take a little while to get going. So we're asking that if you can call early, you get more time. If you wait until the end, then clearly we do not have the time then, because when the band strikes up at 10, it means we have to go. So we're inviting you to call and to share your views and your opinions. Now, we had my monthly press conference yesterday, and that was the one for the month of March. We've in fact had 2, one on the 1st of March and one yesterday. And the reason we had 2 is that because February was a short month and there was a lot happening, we were unable to have one in February. I take this commitment that I've made very seriously. I know that some people look at these matters and feel that they're unimportant. I feel, however, that they are important because they show a new style of governance. They show a new approach. They show a more modern and progressive approach and what is to be expected as the country moves forward. And that is why we are doing this monthly press conference. When I have an interaction with the press, I go back to that once I've taken these few calls. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Good night to the Honorable.
Yes, good night to you.
Good night.
Yes.
Yes, Mark, I'm here listening to you, and you know that in the Federation of Syndicate and Navies that we just got to keep our head and our eyes above, because, you know, a lot of negative people out there want to destroy the unity, but they cannot get it work because you all is working. And just up to just a while ago, I'm a young, me and a gentleman was just had a little discussion. And he was telling me Unity winning all the cases, losing all the cases, them. I said, how do you mean losing all the cases, them? Well, all the cases, them we went to court with the Unity. Unity put one in the court with the Prime Minister. I think that's principle, because the government got to do that. Because other parliament members got dual citizenship from a different country, and that same former Prime Minister went and pressed them, charges against them, and they got to renounce the citizenship and those things. So, Mark, to be truthful, we got to move on and we got to do what we got to do as native of our country. Now, Mark, let me tell you, I had the gentleman is telling me that nothing doing. Up to now, Unity gone, nothing doing. Mark, and I'm telling you, a man who works in a business place, one of the biggest business places in St. So when you see these kind of people come around and tell you nothing is doing, you want to know what kind of, what they're thinking. Because I think some people was there, two other fellows was there, and they didn't like what he's saying, and they had a different accent from a different country, and they said, no. They start to engage with them. So I turn off, left them, the talking, But Mark, I can't tell you, Mark. We got to do what we got to do, and the negative, they all going to say what they got to say. But we as citizens of this country, national of this country, want to see our country move on with a unity government, and by right, we seen it. We seen progress out of you all. Mark, you have a wonderful night. Anything else, then come back.
All right, my brother. Just let's take this other call, and I'm going to go. I have some big events happening I need to talk about. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yes, good evening, on the mark.
How are you, my dear?
Good. Last night I was here listening. The Prime Minister said that we used to give you both check.
Yes.
But remember, he was one in there too, So I don't know where he said. And congratulations to you. And in fact, I hear you have up here. I want to walk up there too. Because I hear everything on the radio this afternoon.
All right.
Yes. I want to give you tell you what you do and congratulations.
All right. Thank you, my dear.
Okay.
God bless. All right. Good. Now, everybody knows that one of my good friends is Dr. Packer, Cooley's son from down Henley Park, as we say. And Dr. Packer sent me something today. And I want to read what he said, because he boasted. He said that his event is going to be bigger than the Nevis Mini Olympics. And the Mini Olympics is the biggest event in St. Kitts and Nevis. He's saying that his event, and what is the event? He's having a fish fry. And he have his own association now, the Nevis Association of Central Florida. You all hear that? Because we have associations in Miami. Them fellas say no. They want to go to Central Florida and have their own association. So Packer and the Nevis Association of Central Florida is having a fish fry. Now hear what I see on the poster. They're having a fish fry, but $7 for chicken plate. Now, Packer, I hope you're listening. I know you're driving somewhere in the Midwest or something, but I hope you're listening. $7 for a chicken plate at a fish fry, but then $12 for the fish plate. And this fish fry is going to be a big event. They're going to have an Easter egg hunt, and this event is Saturday the 20th of April. Music, of course, will be provided. They're going to go from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Good times, friends, and family. Where? Orla, O-R-L-A, Orla Vista Park, 1 North Powers Drive in Orlando, Florida. You want more information? Call them up, 407-694-2346. 407-694-2346. So if you're in Florida, please go and check out the Nevis Association of Central Florida. It's a new association they're putting together, and they're having a fish fry on the 20th day of April at Orla Vista Park, 1 North Powers Drive, Orlando, Florida. And for more information, call 407-694-2346. And notwithstanding it's a fish fry, you can get a plate of chicken for $7 or a plate of fish for $12. Plenty of music as they try to raise some money. And I ask one and all to go out and support Dr. Packer and the Nevis Association in Central Florida. While I'm making announcements, we also are pleased to announce that on Sunday the 7th of April, we have the A1 Titans Relay Championships featuring the top youth, junior and senior athletes from St. Kitts and Nevis. 4x100, 4x200, 4x400, 4x800, sprint medley and distance medley at the Nevis Athletic Stadium, the Mondo facility right there on Long Point Road. The 2019 A1 Titans Relay, $10 for children, 5 to 17, $20 if you're over 17. And that is the admission for the A1 Titans Relay for 2019. Sunday, the 7th of April, 2019. This relay is going to be happening. I think it's going to be a grand event. And in the tradition of the sporting events that we're having, we have the Mini Olympics on the 3rd. We have this now on the 7th, the Titans, A1 Titans Relay Championships. Top youth, junior and senior athletes from St. Kitts and Nevis. 4x100, 4x200, 4x400, 4x800, sprint and distance medley. $10 for children, $20 for adults. It promises to be a grand affair. And so we're asking one and all to go out. Nevis is full of action, a lot of wholesome fun, and we're asking that you go out and be a part of it. Now, I was talking about the fact that we had the press conference yesterday. Some see it as a minor thing, but we have never had that phenomenon existing in Nevis before. This is new. And I want our people sometimes to reflect. And why? Because, of course, we want to say sometimes that, oh, we don't have access and we can't see you. And that is true. I know people prefer when you come to their homes and you sit on their step and in their kitchen and you have a chat. And that will happen. But I also want to say that I have tried my very best to make myself available. Every Thursday that I'm here, we have what we call open day. And therefore we see whoever may come. I have seen as many as 30 people on any given open day. People just come starting at 8:30 and we see until people are there no more. There are no more people to see. There's no appointment and people come from all over, including St. Kitts, to share their views and opinions, to share their issues, and I try to do the best that I can to help. I have On the Mark every Wednesday for 2 hours when I'm here, in the flesh, having a conversation with you, opening the lines, and you can call and question any matter that you seek to question on, put any matter, and have a conversation. I'm saying to you that that is not normal or usual. It is not normal or usual in the region to have any leader available to you on radio for 2 hours every week to have a conversation. And I'm not having a monologue. I'm not just coming and talking and then I leave. I talk and then I open the lines and then it's your turn to talk. And then we have the monthly press conference when the press comes. And I want to thank the members of the press in Nevis and St. Kitts. I want to thank Von Radio and Freedom FM and NTV because they have broadcast this event, but also the members of the press who come and ask sometimes difficult questions, probing questions, insightful questions. And I'm grateful because they help to get the information out. They help to get the public sensitized as to what is happening and how it is happening and how it is unfolding. And I believe that we are making good strides in the right direction in terms of availability, in terms of transparency, in terms of good governance. I was especially pleased at this press conference to report that the long-awaited Integrity in Public Life office is on the cusp of being opened. The office has been identified, furniture has been supplied, the commissioners, as you know, have been selected. I'm told that interviewed persons and that staffing will be taking place very shortly. Internet and all of that, telephones are in. And I've asked the legal department to expedite the regulations to ensure that we have a functional Integrity in Public Life Commission very shortly. It is something that I promised and that my party promised. It is something, ladies and gentlemen, that we committed to. I don't like the word promise. It is something that we committed to, and I am looking forward to being able to say very shortly that it was a commitment made and a commitment kept. I intend to continue to do the best that I can. I intend to continue to lead with distinction. I am not promising that there will not be mistakes. I can't promise that. But I will promise that we will continue to do the very best that we can. And I'm asking our people to hold faith and to understand that governance is by its nature difficult. There are people out there, some who say they have not got, some say they have not got enough. And we understand that. But when you're governing, you sometimes have to take difficult decisions and to ensure that you not just govern for the few, but for the many. And that is what we're seeking to do. Let's go back to the phones and take some more calls. It's 3 minutes to the hour of 9 o'clock. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Hi, good evening, Mark.
Good evening to you.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Yeah, I'm just reporting on the VPL League. We had two big matches last Sunday, and what we're going to do on this Sunday, we wouldn't be having any cricket. We're giving the players and people a chance to go to the high school championship in St. Kitts, and some of the, one or two of the teams that might have missed, so they wouldn't be there. So we're going to roll again the week after, and we are hoping to have the finals by the end of April. And Mark, it was good for you on your press conference to talk about the facility that's going to be built at Hartend. Well, I know a little bit about it because of with the disaster thing, but I just wanted to kind of, can you explain a little bit more? Because a lot of people are asking me a lot of questions and that I couldn't answer.
Okay, well, what I understand from the brief that I've seen is that there will be what is called an interpretation center that is built there at Hard Times. And I know Minister Evelyn is quite happy that, of course, some infrastructure, additional infrastructure has been built at Hard Times. That interpretation center apparently is going to look at the whole question of biodiversity here. We have had 2 rangers, park rangers, who have been trained already and who will be working. And their effort will be to collect data to keep track of the flora and fauna in Nevis. And I believe we're looking at a few areas to designate. I think one was Camp's Gut, and I think the other, I'm not quite sure. I think it could be Nevis Peak and Camp's Gut. I stand to be corrected on that. But certainly you will hear more about it. But what the idea is to have this interpretation center. They'll work out of that. And they will have, of course, access to the public for people to come in and learn a bit more. So someone like yourself, you have all kind of bush remedy for every ailment. I believe that is the kind of thing that people would be interested in. And they would want to know about the different bush and the different, flora and fauna that exists in Nevis. So that is as I understand it. And then, of course, we'll have to enforce to make sure that people are not destroying the natural environment. So I think it's a good step forward in terms of environmental protection. Okay?
Okay, Mark. Yeah. And I'm just hoping that that I guess pretty soon we'll be getting the feel like, because it really is a big concern now, and really and truly the people in the area really want to use the field during the night time. And it will be good that that we can get it light as quick as possible.
All right, I understand you made the case week after week. I hear you loudly. And that is a matter that, of course, is with the good people at Sports. We'll try to do what we can. There are lots of fields all around Nevis, and I understand the good work that you're doing up there, and we'll see what we can do. All right?
Okay, then,
let's go back to the phones and take some more calls. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello? Okay, that caller isn't there. Caller, can you try again, please? 869-469-1616. 869-469-1700. Those are the numbers to call if you want to be a part of the show this evening. It is 9 o'clock. It's a good time to call because, as I said, you get a bit more time when you call early, and that affords us an opportunity to engage with each other a bit more. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Good evening to you.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are things?
I'm all right.
Yes.
I hear somebody was saying Denzel Douglas was apologizing. Some kind of apology he made, but he says they don't know why he apologized for because he didn't mention what he's apologizing for. Let me tell you something. If Mr. Douglas starts apologizing now, the election would come and go before he finished apologizing for the things that he have to apologize for.
What are some of the things you think he should apologize for?
First of all, the way he treats neighbors. Secondly, for the amount of money he wastes and still have to call in the IMF and sell land for debt. Those are the two main ones. And a lot more. But from since he born, promised to sell people. Mr. Brantley, what happened when he used to be on television, on the radio? I listened to a poor lady from Sinkit call into that man and just to talk about the electricity, how it is. The man called the radio damn poor. What kind of man that is? A leader that is? To cuss a old lady like that. And secondly, this case you said this man won. How is it possible?
Hello?
You listening?
Yeah.
How is it possible? I mean, you see what's going on. I told you before, these are the same judges that they elect to the CCJ. And I am telling you right now, I told you before, if there has a referendum and the numbers are tied and it need one for those people, you better say, God bless. Because they will never, never get my vote.
But what would you say? What would you say, caller, if I told you that the decision that the court followed was a decision from the Privy Council?
What that? Huh?
The decision that the court followed in arriving at that decision that it arrived at here in Sinkits a couple of days ago was a decision from the Privy Council in England. In a case, I believe that arose in Antigua.
But how was it possible to pass in Parliament then?
Well, that is the better question, and that is why I'm saying for those who are seeking to make politics out of it.
Yeah, but you didn't say that. You didn't mention the Privy Council when you were talking.
No. What I'm saying is that the case that they followed was a case decided in the Privy Council.
Yeah.
Right? But the law that was struck down was a law passed in 2014. So essentially, as I said, I have sought not to see it in political terms, because if I were to view it in political terms, a Labour candidate challenged a Labour law and it was struck down. I don't know what the victory in that or who the victory in that is for, because it clearly showed that the Labour Parliament, as it was then constituted, passed a law which was unconstitutional or has now been found to be unconstitutional. So I have left that, and I have simply said that I think the country needs to look at it in a wide and broader context, that it does represent a vindication of the rule of law.
So that was a law that should never been maintained to Parliament. That's what you're saying.
Well, that is what the court is now saying. Yes, that it was improper.
Oh, I see. Anyway, I still stand. What I say still stand, because that thing about the passport should have never gone their way. Douglas way. You're going to tell me. Also, if I have a friend in because I love Grenada. So if I have a friend in Grenada, I could go and tell him I want to go and apply for a diplomatic passport, and it is okay, just because that's what the judge said. The judge said a friend gave the passport to Douglas. Even if he gave it to Douglas, it shouldn't have been accepted. They shouldn't accept it at the immigration departure and whatever, since he gave him as a friend. That means it wasn't official.
Well, my brother, these are matters I think the court will contend with those. I myself do not agree, because I believe that when you're a politician, you must be held to a higher standard, and that there should be no doubt in anybody's mind as to where your allegiance lies. And if you're traveling the world with a diplomatic passport from another country, you're saying every time you present that passport that you represent, not only represent, you're a high representative of the government and people of that country, because that's what a diplomat is. A diplomat is a high representative of the government and people of that country. When I travel anywhere as a diplomat, Minister of Foreign Affairs, I present my diplomatic passport. I am treated with a certain level of courtesy, because I am viewed as a high representative of the government and people of St. Kitts and Nevis. So if you present a diplomatic passport from Dominica, clearly you are representing yourself as a high representative of the government and people of Dominica. So I don't know if Dr. Douglas now speaks Patois, You know, if when he goes in, they say Sacafet, and he says Muela Garso Muela. I have no idea. But the bottom line is that he has gone around the world, hither and yon, representing himself as a high representative of the people of Dominica. So, that to my mind is a question, because as politicians, we must hold ourselves to a higher level and be held accountable. And I don't think that the electorate should have any doubt in their mind as to who we serve.
Mm-hmm. And he's saying he didn't swear no allegiance. How we know he didn't swear no allegiance? Nobody, we wasn't there.
Yeah, well.
We wasn't there. And I think you guys should pass a law that if he traveling and they don't accept it, make him use his St. Nevis passport. Don't accept it. Immigration departure, don't accept it. Let him go back to court. Good night.
All right, my brother. Thanks for your opinion. All shades of public opinion are not only invited but welcome. Thank you for your usual contribution. Let's go back to the phones. It's about 8 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Yeah, Mark, today I was listening on radio.
Yes.
And I was listening the advertisement with Noel Courtesy. That is the same Noel Hudai?
Yes, unfortunately.
Oh, I just want to give my sympathy to his family.
Yes.
He's a good friend. He have a brother down here that come down by Manso. So I just want to wish my sympathy to the Williams family down here in Boys, and the Hanley family, and his family in Nevis. Want to wish them all the best, because he was a very good man for you.
Mm-hmm.
Boys, humbling fellow, engaged with and everything. Mark, let me move on to something else. Now, remember you all, when the campaign it was going on with the unity government, the campaign and a lot of things, say what the farmer administration was doing, you know, like integrity in public life, transparency in government, and accountability and all those things and different things. Now, to be truthful, this government is going very good, because, you know, the integrity don't pass. Not the integrity don't pass, right?
Yes, of course.
The integrity don't pass. Okay, all right. Well, now this integrity don't pass. You find different lawyers and all kind of business people coming on different talk shows now and challenging this government now, getting down the throat for all these things to happen in a quick time. I'm agree that you are campaign against about them, against with them, because he was there for 20 years and, you know, he was ignored all the time, he was ignored to him. And then after the former prime minister find he getting himself in a lot of difficulties, he went to that he going to table the integrity in public life, but he never done nothing to it. You all done do something, put somebody over the commissioner over it and so, and you all going good. And as far as I'm concerned, that we getting integrity every day, because we getting transparency every day. Because when the people of this country could see how the money is spending and how the money going, and you all come on different forums, different talk shows, different town hall meetings, the Prime Minister press conference, and it tell us how the country money is spending, that to me is enough for the people of this country to account for. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
But they're making it sound like you are there for 20-something years or 30 years and nothing take place yet. Mark, I know these things can come forward. Even the marijuana thing can come forward. All these things can come forward. You all gone in there. You all do all kind of things because you all don't pay off the AMF everything, because it was so shaky. Remember this man said he went down in government headquarters after 4 o'clock in the morning and take out his belongings. Nobody know what contamination he did down there. And you all got to walk around these things.
Mm-hmm.
Really good night. And I want to wish Motley now the Ginger and good night too.
All right, brother.
And Sister Clara and all those guys up there. You all are wonderful night again, Mark.
All right. Okay, good. Let's go back to the phones. The phones are ringing off the hook. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Greetings, Mr. Brantley.
Greetings, brother.
And how are you, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you things?
I'm good myself. Mr. Brantley, some time ago, you highlighted assistance you get concerning your Foreign Affairs Ministry.
Yes.
And you mentioned Isaac and Sam Conda and different other persons. Tonight I heard you mention Mr. Conda name again.
Yes.
It's good. I, as a citizen, am very pleased to hear Sam Condé mentioned as a part of the government structure. Because, you see, sometimes when you hear his name mentioned from other circles, it seems as though it is mentioned to show seeds of discord amongst the nation. And if we say we are striving to improve our country, at least every word from our mouth should be examined before we say what we say. Because we all have to sow words to unite our people and to strive to liberate our people.
Yes.
So I'm glad really to hear you as a Foreign Affairs Ministry talk so highly of Mr. Sam Condé. You continue to take care.
Thank you, brother. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good night, Mr. Premier. How are your night inside?
My night is going well, thank you.
Great thanks for life and honor, and good night to your listeners via radio and internet on the mark. Now, giving thanks that you had a press conference yesterday, I heard you make some reference about the herb, and I heard you make statements about contraband. So I would like to know, when you're classifying the herb, you're using it in the context of that jug?
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Well, you make a statement to your press conference.
Saying about contraband? Saying about contraband and the herb, I don't remember making any such statement.
Well, okay, let me say this here. I heard you say that girls are engaging in contraband for holding for the young members them and the people who do as they call young.
And you interpret that to say I'm talking about herb?
Well, I just want to know, because I know you don't make special reference about the herb in certain levels and the avenues that you all look at it. Our guns are able to only emphasize on a certain strength to it, but we know that herb is not a part of no drug baron, and it will never be. And we're stating that on a permanent fact, because something we're making is something that the Creator creates. So we are saying now, it's time now we educate the people them in a proper way to emphasize the history of what the herb used of. Because many people think that Rastafari just come here to smoke herb alone, and we are educated people too. You see, because we make strive to the contribution of the society and even at the nation as a whole. So we cannot continue looking at this herb being a breadbasket in the drug baron movement. We're not supporting at the level.
Okay, well, I understand what you're saying, but please, you can make your point without putting words into my mouth, because I am now wondering... No, but I'm just saying that you started off by saying that I make some comment about herb and contraband, and I made no such comment.
Okay, so, then let me say that. I just want to make sure you understand in the term that you're saying that these things don't label to the herb, please. That's all I'm asking you.
As I said, I did not mention herb. I had no conversation about anything to do with herb. When I am speaking, I try to be very clear in terms of what I'm saying.
Okay, I'm apology on the going, but I would like to push this forward to you.
Sure, well, I understand that. Right.
Knowing that we're seeing now that you was out of the island for a few times and you went to some countries there, we'd like to know what all the ground levels and on your behalf, being the Minister of Foreign Affairs, to pursue in the level of the government in these overseas that you take the other day?
Well, thanks for the question. I made 2 trips which had different parts. I went to Romania, and Romania really had an engagement with members of CARICOM on the issue of Romania becoming the president of the EU, the European Union. And the European Union, as you know, has been applying some pressure to these countries about blacklisting and seeking to cause some reputational damage to our countries. And so we went to have a conversation with Romania to seek to develop a friendship with them and seek to get an ally, if you will, within the EU. I think that went well. One of the good outcomes for me is that we were able to meet with 13 heads of universities, of 13 universities in Romania. We found out that Romania has 92 universities, some having student populations of over 20,000 people. That is twice the size of Nevis almost. And they are offering a lot of scholarships in things like science, technology, agronomy, veterinary sciences, medical sciences, and math, areas that we really need in the country. Last year they offered 45 scholarships to CARICOM. Antigua, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Jamaica have taken up, so there are students there. All of these courses are taught in English, and so there is no difficulty for our people going, and the airfare is paid to get there. All the room and board and tuition and books and everything is paid. So really and truly, it's a great opportunity, and I want to help to promote that, to encourage some of our youngsters to try and go there, because we discovered that Romania has been educating people for centuries, people from Africa, from the rest of Europe, and from Asia. And so the Caribbean now has an opportunity, and St. Kitts Nevis more specifically has an opportunity. So that was the Romanian part. I then went to Morocco, and in Morocco we had some discussions on what we call South-South cooperation. I believe as foreign minister I have tried very hard to develop deeper relations with Africa, and as a result I have traveled to Africa. I've engaged in Morocco, I've engaged in Senegal. We now have diplomatic relations with Kenya and Ghana, visa-free to Sierra Leone and Rwanda, and places such as those. Just recently Togo, Zambia, the Gambia, all of these countries we are developing relationships with. And so we're in Morocco because the OECS is about to open an embassy in Rabat, the capital of Morocco. So I had some conversations there with them in relation to that. I came back home, and then I had to leave urgently again to go to Barbados. And that Barbados meeting was a meeting between Juan Guaido, the the leader, the president of the National Assembly in Venezuela, and his team. As you know, and as the world knows, and as the region knows, there is a crisis in Venezuela, and there are two contending parties. There's President Nicolas Maduro, and there is Juan Guaido, who is president of the National Assembly. The United States, Canada, and some others have recognized Juan Guaido as the interim president. Much of the rest of the world continues to recognize Nicolas Maduro. CARICOM has taken a middle position, that there is real suffering in Venezuela, there's a humanitarian crisis that has unfolded there, and that the parties must be brought to the table to have dialogue to ensure peaceful resolution of the problems in Venezuela. This was the first time. It was an historic meeting, because it's the first time that CARICOM is meeting with Juan Guaido and his team. Mr. Guaido appeared via video conference from Venezuela, and he had in the team there Mr. Borges and Mr. Vecchio, who are his two top representatives, and they met with CARICOM, a set of foreign ministers and the Secretary General of CARICOM. So that is what we were doing there, in trying to break the ice, build some confidence, and ultimately try to create a platform where CARICOM can act as a mediator, facilitator for conversation between Maduro and Guaido, and somehow try through that to settle this dispute and get Venezuela back on the right track. So that was the reason for my travel recently.
Okay, thanks for the all info, Mr. Premier. And I would like to state this here on record. Juan Guaido, however you name it, you're not ready for the social aspect of Venezuelan people. So tell Donald Trump and the rest of the gangsters them who supporting you that you need to go out of the eyes of the people who really need to be liberated, because you are a CIA agent, and we don't trust people who trying to deny nationalists for the people to rise. You see? So, Mr. Minister and Mr. Premier, because it's too hot you're carrying at this point in time. So we will say, the CARICOM body need to stop play lackadaisical and be real. Don't let America find you all. They ain't going to be all in time, you know. So you all need to stand up and be man enough to say, enough is enough.
I think, caller, in fairness to CARICOM...
And equal and justice stands for one another, Mr. Premier.
Okay.
Because we cannot let these people continue violating human rights. And remember, we're looking at meeting with you, Mr. Premier, not as being the Premier, but being the Minister of Foreign Affairs. So the Rastafari and Bingi Yakusiada will be looking at your presence soon, please.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Have a safe night.
All right. Thank you, and thank you for the contribution. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Mr. Brantley?
Yes.
Why you guys went and meet that man? He's illegal. How would Trump feel if Nancy Pelosi get up tomorrow morning and say she's the president of America? This man is illegal.
Well, caller, it's not as easy as that. to say he's illegal. The reality is that you have a crisis in Venezuela. And that crisis can only be helped if one is willing to talk to the people involved in that crisis.
He already said he's not going to speak to Maduro. He already said it.
Well, he has said a lot of things. They also said that they would not speak to CARICOM, but they were speaking to CARICOM on Saturday in Barbados. So I feel that, you know, the only way out of this impasse is dialogue. If we can't get dialogue, then we're going to get violence. And nobody wants violence.
As far as I'm concerned, he's not illegal. He's illegal.
Well,
and that's it. You can't just get up and say you're president, and when you boycott the election, they had election and he boycotted.
Right. Well,
he didn't take part, and then you're going to come and say
caller, just to be correct, he took part in the National Assembly elections. He did not take part in the presidential election.
I'm talking about the general election. He boycotted. That's the main election. He boycotted.
All right.
He shouldn't have and then get up and say he's president, and people like Trump, just because Trump hit, first of all, Maduro and Chavez and those guys, Cuba and all those, he's going to get up and say back him, and people following Trump. Everybody knows Trump is a damn crazy man.
Well, caller. Let's control what we say. We don't know anything about Mr. Trump's mental state. He's the President of the United States. As I say, sometimes let us disagree, but we don't need to be disagreeable, okay? And we don't need to trade in insults either to make our point. The bottom line is we have contending forces in Venezuela. Whether you like it, I like it, or we like it or not, that is the reality. That Mr. Juan Guaido and his team have the support of some very powerful partners in the hemisphere, and Mr. Maduro, who's there, equally has support of countries like China and Russia and the like. It is a real problem, because if we do not get these parties talking and get a resolution through negotiation, the alternative is violence. And nobody wants to see violence in the streets of Venezuela. And so, whilst we have our individual concerns and our individual positions, and I understand that passions sometimes flare, let us, ladies and gentlemen, be cognizant that CARICOM, rather than, as has been accused by the caller before, of sitting down and doing nothing, CARICOM has actually had a very principled position. I have said and continue to say it is one of CARICOM's finest moments, because CARICOM has been the only entity that has been calling for this level of dialogue. And I traveled to Uruguay with the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Timothy Harris, the Prime Minister from Barbados, the Honorable Mia Mottley, the Prime Minister from Trinidad, the Honorable Keith Rowley. And we were there and we entered into something called the Montevideo Mechanism, together with Uruguay and Mexico, to seek to have a framework for dialogue. When other countries were talking about recognizing Guaido and they asking and calling on the military and matters such as those, CARICOM was consistent in its position that it cannot be a military solution. And I'm very happy to see that Canada and other countries have now come to the realization that the path of dialogue is the appropriate path. Indeed, it was Canada that facilitated the dialogue in Barbados between CARICOM and Juan Guaido. Now, you can't have dialogue if you're only talking to one side. I want that to be clear. You cannot have dialogue if you're only talking to one side. You must be talking to both sides in order to have dialogue and see where you can come to a consensus. And I will tell you, having been in the room and having conversations and understanding Maduro's position and hearing Guaido and his team for the very first time on Saturday, the points of divergence aren't that great. They aren't that great. The question is, can you get the parties together and say to them, listen, put aside the passion and put aside the individual quest and look at the country that is Venezuela and see how we can come to a resolution of the issues there so we can restore peace to that country. They are a neighbor, and they have done wonderful things for us here in St. Kitts Nevis and in the rest of the region. We owe it to them to lend our effort and to lend our ear and to lend our framework to seek to develop a mechanism for dialogue. And we have proposed the Montevideo mechanism in order to move and advance this process. And I think that CARICOM ought to be applauded for its efforts in that regard. Let's go back to the phones. It is 26 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Good evening to you.
Yes. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine myself.
Good.
Yeah. I've not heard the chairman of CARICOM comment on the visit of the 5 prime ministers to Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence. I've heard other prime ministers comment. It seems we are trying to play both sides of the issue instead of actually leading on principle. We can't be selling ourselves to the highest bidder. You know, at the very least, I would have thought that the Prime Minister would have issued a statement expressing regret at the visit.
Why?
Because it divides and undermines CARICOM.
Why?
I just told you, it divides.
No, I'm asking you why. You're saying it so, don't make it so. Why does it divide and undermine CARICOM?
How does it look when the President of the United States, right, selects particular leaders, and we're not stupid. We know why he selects those.
Caller. I have heard this argument, I think with ultimate respect to you, that it is a nonsense argument. Here's
why you think he invited them.
Here's why. The United States of America is a sovereign nation. And as a sovereign nation, headed by the president of that nation, they have the right to invite who they want to invite.
No one is questioning that.
Okay. So if we start from that premise, the nations that he invited are also sovereign nations. And therefore, they have the right to accept or not to accept as they so choose.
And to hell with CARICOM.
But I don't know why people are bringing CARICOM into this. CARICOM was not invited anywhere. CARICOM was not engaged anywhere. So what you're telling me?
So you don't see this as an effort to divide and essentially
caller.
Those leaders,
caller, no.
Investment.
Caller, no.
Okay, go ahead.
What I see it as is the reaction to it by us is what is causing the division.
Really?
Because nobody's going to tell me that if Prime Minister Trudeau tomorrow calls Basti and says, I would like to see Prime Minister Harris, that St. Kitts and Nevis should not have the right, if they so choose, and if they feel that it is in their national interest to go to that meeting. What has happened here is that we have looked at the fact that the President of the United States invited some CARICOM leaders. And we have jumped and sort of interposed CARICOM into the mix and said, oh, it is somehow a betrayal of CARICOM.
So you don't think he had particular considerations in mind when he selected those leaders?
Caller, unlike you and others, I do not propose to know the mind of President Trump. What I do know is that in the context of international affairs, that the president had every right to invite who he wanted to his home. Listen to me, let me finish.
Nobody's questioning that.
He had every right to invite who he wanted to his home in Mar-a-Lago. And those that he invited had every right to go. Because at the end of the day, Jamaica has interest. Bahamas is so close to the United States. The economy is inextricably linked with that of the U.S. So if the Prime Minister of Bahamas, having bilateral issues to discuss with the president, gets the opportunity to do so, you're telling me that he shouldn't do so?
Hold on. This was specifically about Venezuela.
No, caller.
And China.
Caller, I am told.
That was what he said.
Caller, I am told that in that discussion, which lasted just over an hour, there was 10 minutes of Venezuela, there was 50+ minutes of trade, and there was no discussion of China.
Come on, Mr. Brantley, you're Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Yes.
I mean, you can't be so naive as to think.
But why is it I'm being naive? Why is it I'm being naive? But you, caller, let me ask you something. Why is I'm being naive by telling you what reports have come from that meeting, from those who were there, but you who have no information at all are allowed to jump to conclusions and talk about CARICOM and dividing CARICOM.
So
CARICOM was not CARICOM was not at Mar-a-Lago.
You, Mr. Brantley,
yes?
Foreign Minister, don't realize this. Then we're in really serious trouble.
But don't realize what?
That is the problem we have. But the Caribbean should have had a united front on this issue.
But caller, the Caribbean does have a united front on this issue. I was in Barbados. You know who was in Barbados meeting with Juan Guaido with me? The Foreign Minister of Jamaica. the ambassador of Haiti to the OAS. Wait, hold on a minute. The foreign minister of St. Lucia. So you tell me, what were they doing in Barbados, having a meeting with CARICOM and Juan Guaido, if, as you say, their heads were in Mar-a-Lago betraying CARICOM?
Trying to have the best of both worlds.
And caller, no. You all continue to interpose facts that are not in evidence and do not exist.
Mr. Brantley?
Yes.
I mean, be honest. Why do you think that the President of the United States selected those particular countries to have bilateral?
Because he wanted to have a conversation with them. Because he and Jamaica are discussing some major energy deals. Because St. Lucia and Prime Minister Chastanet has a special relationship with them that we know. He wanted to have a conversation with them. And I don't understand why we in the region must jump to the conclusion that CARICOM is under threat because the President of the United States decided to have a conversation.
We know the record of the United States.
Well, let me ask you something.
In the region, we know it.
Let me ask you something. If this was all about Venezuela, if this was all about Venezuela, some of you are trying to claim, without any evidence.
Yeah.
Just pull it out of the air, this was all about Venezuela. Why was Guyana not there? Guyana is a member of the Lima Group. Of the countries that were there, only St. Lucia is a member of the Lima Group. Of the countries that were there, only Haiti and the Bahamas have recognized Juan Guaido.
Brantley,
Jamaica has not.
I accept.
Jamaica has not recognized Juan Guaido.
Yeah, I accept your view, that which is in contradiction of Mr. Prime Minister Dr. Rowley and Gaston Brown and the St. Vincent leader.
Dr.
Right?
Gonzalez, yes.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Yeah, I understand that it's in contradiction of them, right? And because they feel, like I do, that it was a very sinister attempt to drive a wedge in CARICOM, okay? And it's not surprising that the United States would do that. The United States don't have no friends. They have interests. And they figure that it's in
all
their
countries
interest.
have interests.
Yes.
Okay.
And we should be looking after ours.
And why do you say we're not looking after ours?
Because if they will pick us off one by one.
If Jamaica
stay united, they're going to pick us off one by one.
If Jamaica went to the meeting in Mar-a-Lago, and Jamaica's Prime Minister Holness is looking for investment in Jamaica, and he made that case, what is wrong with that? You see, if it is that coming out of the Mar-a-Lago meeting, we had some statement on Venezuela which was at odds with the CARICOM position, then I would agree with you. The reality is that
so
you and
you
others...
think it's a coincidence that he offered investment and so on to them?
What call? I don't understand.
You expect him to say, listen, if you support my position on Venezuela, I'm going to give you this.
Caller,
you know, you're a diplomat.
Caller,
you know that's not
the bottom line is that you have no evidence that there was any quid pro quo. You have no evidence because nothing has come out by Jamaica, by the Bahamas, by Haiti, or by St. Lucia to say.
I hope when you go negotiate our stuff, you don't act so naive. You know?
No, but you're saying I'm being naive, but you're just pulling things out of your hat.
All right.
You're pulling things out of your hat because you have not one strand of evidence to support anything you're saying.
Okay.
There is no statement. Wait, let me finish. There's no statement that has come from any of the leaders that went to that meeting. And no statement that has come from the United States itself to say that any of those leaders changed their position in relation to Venezuela. None. The position of CARICOM on Venezuela was stated in Bastille just 3 weeks ago at the Intersessional.
Know the record of the states, Mr. Brantley. It's not like they've been operating in the region for years. They're not going to use gunboat diplomacy now, let's hope.
People
they're going to use more subtle. Listen, they're going to use more subtle methods like FinCEN's advisories, like promising investment, those kinds of soft...
Caller, I hear you, but again, you're speaking in theory because you have no evidence to support anything you're saying.
One last thing.
Yes.
One last thing. There's a question I wanted to ask you about the airport development.
Yes.
that you were talking about, you are encouraging divisions to use the Bansamri Airport.
Yes.
And make Puerto Rico basically a hub for connections with the other parts of North America. Correct?
Well, certainly as an option, definitely.
Right. But isn't that in conflict with your role as Federal Minister of Aviation? Because, I mean, I would imagine that you'd be promoting the development of RLB as well.
But I have done so. You don't, there's a Sun Country flight coming right now direct from Minneapolis. I was very instrumental, and through the NTA here in Nevis, Mr. Greg Phillip and others in making that flight happen.
But you realize that right now RLB operates as a hub for passengers from Nevis. And so if you succeed in the plans for Bansamri, it will be to the detriment of RLB.
No, I don't agree. I agree that my view is...
Yeah, let me know how you envision
my view is there's sufficient business for everybody. And that there is no danger in passengers using Nevis and using St. That is how
see a conflict.
That is how countries develop.
You don't see a conflict.
And you can't tell me that I should shut down Bansamri and allow RLB alone to prosper because that is somehow consistent. My role as Minister of Aviation is a federal role. And let me remind you, that the Federation is St. Kitts and
that it might be
Nevis.
Conflict.
Well, no, it is St. Kitts and Nevis. You seem to think...
if you're going to operate one at the detriment of the other.
But who's saying that any is operating at the detriment of the other?
Because right now, RLB is a hub for Nevis.
Yes, and Nevis can be a hub for St. Kitts as well. What is wrong with that? Oh, you don't like that idea? Huh?
No. What I'm saying is a conflict.
Why is it conflict?
It's a conflict.
Why is it a conflict?
You're going to be taking passengers away.
London has nearly 5 airports in London. Are any in conflict with each other? We need to stop being so myopic in our thinking. London has Heathrow. They have what was the other one called? Gatwick. They have Swansea.
We're talking about a population of 54.
Caller. Regardless of the population, you need to stop being so myopic. And you need to stop trying to tell me that we must shut down the airport in Nevis because RLB is a hub for Nevis. That is nonsense.
Did you hear me say that?
Well, if you're not saying that, what are you saying?
What I'm saying is that it's a conflict to
do what?
To remove the hub of Nevis, which is RLB, okay, and be promoting them to use Puerto Rico as a hub instead. You're promoting...
Caller, I'm saying to use Puerto Rico
instead of RLB.
I'm saying to use RLB. I'm saying to use St. Martin.
Patriotic.
Because I'm saying that the airport in Nevis has to survive. And if you can't understand that, then obviously you're out to lunch. You understand? Just as RLB is to prosper, so Bansamri is to prosper.
It's a conflict.
Well, if you see a conflict, caller, I see service to my country.
Okay.
So that's a matter for you. Let's go to the next call and try to get some more views and opinions. 20 minutes to the hour of 10 o'clock. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good night, Mr. Brantley.
Good night to you.
Could I ask a question? Why are you wasting gunpowder on Sparrowhawk?
Oh, Lord of mercy.
When his party was in power, he couldn't open his mouth like it had on a red seal. Other people want to call in and say something. You shouldn't give him so much long time. Anyway, good night.
Okay, good night to you. Gunpowder and Sparrowhawk. I haven't heard this word Sparrowhawk in a long time. 20 minutes to the hour of 10 o'clock. We're taking your calls. 469-1616, 469-1700. Just to remind the members of the public, let me go back here. I want to get my phone so that I have the information correct, because Dr. Packer is saying to one and all that he's having a wonderful event, and his event is going to be in the Association of Central Florida, the Nevis Association. He's saying he's having a big event, and he's having a fish fry. And one and all are asked to go out and be a part of that. And also on the 7th of April, we have A1 Titans Relay Championships at the Mondo Athletic Track in Nevis, and people are asked to go out and support that as well. And of course, on the 3rd of April, we have the Mini Olympics, the big event in the Federation. And of course, tomorrow, we have the start of the Agricultural Food Fair, which promises to be the 25th anniversary, a massive event. Now, just again, for this caller, it seems to me sometimes that people are mistaken as to what the role is. As Minister of Aviation, my role involves safety and security primarily of our 2 airports. And that is what we seek to do to ensure that they comply to international standards. We interact with the people from the US, what do they call them? Not the FAA, but the, it will come to me, but they come in, they do their inspections. We interact with Antigua, the Civil Aviation Authority there. We interact with the ICAO. And that is my job. My job is also, of course, to facilitate air traffic into and out of the country. The country has 2 airports. The country has an international airport on St. Kitts and a regional airport on Nevis. We have said that the regional airport on Nevis is not doing well because people are choosing not to use it despite the flights that are there. Every flight that leaves over there empty, the Nevis taxpayer has to find money for the MRG. So we are encouraging people to use the airport. Not only people in Nevis, but people in St. Kitts as well. We are saying to you in St. Kitts, if you want an early morning flight to get to BVI, then Air Sunshine flies out to Nevis every morning to go to BVI and to go to St. Thomas and places like those. Come over and use the facility. If it is you want to get to Puerto Rico, if it is you want to get to the United States, maybe you're traveling to Orlando, you don't want to travel via Miami, you have options coming out to Nevis. What is unpatriotic or conflict of interest in that? You see, I like to hear these callers call, because as far as they're concerned, once St. Kitts, the island of St. Kitts is booming, to hell with Nevis. Nevis can shut down. And anybody in Nevis who stands up and says that Nevis should have activity in Nevis as well is somehow unpatriotic. Well, partner, let me tell you something. Omnivision, I've never run away from it, nor will I ever run away from it. It is the people of Nevis that have sent me to Parliament. And I will work for them. And I can work for them while also working for the people of St. Kitts, and that is what I've been doing. And that is why I mentioned the flight coming out of Minneapolis, because that flight originated right here in Nevis in terms of the dialogue, in terms of Mr. Greg Phillip and his team bringing that flight. And we were able to negotiate and talk to the federal government and have that flight coming into RLB. So you don't have any authority to tell me that I have a conflict. I am saying, let all of the country prosper. Let prosperity ring out from the hills of Rollins to the lowlands of Newtown. And let everybody rise. This notion that one has to fall so the other could rise is nonsense. Let everybody rise. I mention the UK because in a little space of London, we ain't even gone out to Manchester anymore. You have about 5 airports in London. Now, if Gatwick get traffic and Heathrow get traffic and Swansea get traffic and whatever the name get traffic, is anybody saying that anybody in London is being unpatriotic? So why is it we introduce this nonsense into our debate here in the country? Let us be realistic and be sensible in terms of what it is we're saying and what we're seeking to do. The people of Nevis might surprise some, but are no less than anybody. They are no less than anybody, and they deserve every right to be prosperous, just as the people in St. Kitts. And the sooner everybody recognizes that, I think the better the country is going to be. Let's go back to the phones. It is 10:15. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Mark, you know what I would like to see?
Yes.
I want to see our young man go out there positively in the construction side and go find a trade. Mark, too much of our young men, I don't know about Nevis, but down here too much of our young men on the west side, smoking, drinking, doing all kind of negative things, and other people from different countries coming in and getting all the construction work. Mark, a lot of construction work in the Federation, yeah. They have no excuse now to say they can't find a job. Mark, I, down in the area, right now a house building down there. And I went by the young man, them, I think yesterday, because that's my animal them around, you know. There's some animal around because, you know, they take some mountain and land and so. And I asked the contractor for the building, you know, the local working with you. He said, boy, he can't find none, you know. He can't find none. Laborer, I would not name them out. Name laborer, tradesman, everybody they find the job from different country. Only he as the contractor here from here. Mark, we got to, the young people have got to go out and find something positive to do. And Mark, let me tell you something again. It seemed to me like if they wake up one morning and every night they go to bed that way, that this unity government could fail. Something bad could happen. This country could fall in. Only that make us think to wish. Because nothing positive that come out of these people more about the government doing nothing that is positive in this country at all to some people. Some people getting the $500, some people getting the whole show fixed, some people getting all the kind of things done. And the Fresh Start program, some people go to the development bank and get loan to develop the business, whether agriculture or whatsoever. And some of these people still bitter against the government. And some people still see that some people who call in on the radio every day and try to bring us this government, they'll see all the positive things this government is doing to the ordinary man and woman in the country. Mark, God bless you, brother.
All right, thank you. We have about 10 minutes left. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening to you.
Yeah, Mr. Brantley. Only nobody raise up your pressure, eh?
No, man, the pressure is good.
Country run good at that, I want to hurt them. Now, you see, just like how the farmer leader bunks the Davis people check, they want the Nevis airport to close them. I'm a proud division. And whatever you can do to keep Nevis airport open, because that's what them, the opposition in Sinkit and the opposition in Nevis will say, oh, they can't manage. They have to shut down the airport, they got nothing to do. Let me tell you, God is able to perform what he started. Because once he starts something, he ain't going to leave it undone. So Sinkit and Nevis is going good, and that hurt them belly. And I hope he continue hurt the belly that they keep in the bathroom and keep out the radio, because people got to understand that how come we could be so naive and say we love the federation? It is Sinkits and Nevis, not Sinkits and not Nevis. We are one. But how come we keep bickering against each other? Everything that one part do, it seems like it's a problem to the other. We are saying that Sinkits and Nevis are doing 24 times better than under Labour. And this is what really they can't take. Because the conscience, as a man tell me from Virtual, that from Challenger, sorry, that Dracula eat out the conscience and put in a coconut shell. And that's what these kind of people who keep saying all kinds of negative things about the country. Now we got to with Maduro and them. I mean, come on. As you said, you have well said it. Who the president of the United States want to invite, they invite. Because all I know, the chairman was not invited because he know what he was trying to do. But I'm saying, people are not so foolish as some of these presidents and all those kind of people up in that position. Suppose we are smart people. And check it out throughout the Caribbean, we have some smart leaders. And some of them just want to be like the country of them one. Just like how we got some of them here feel like Sinkits and Nevis, we belongs to them. I give it to them on a platter. So then they must stay in power. I want to say to you, you continue to do what you're doing over in Nevis, and we're going to continue what we got to do in Sinkit. And when all come together, the forces are greater than those Sambalak and Tobaya. God bless you. Have a good night.
All right, brother. 10 minutes to the hour of 9 o'clock. 10 o'clock, I'm sorry. We're taking your calls. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Hi, good evening, Mark. How are you?
Good evening to you. I'm well, thank you.
Mark, when you left from there and you got into the park, you went and behold, I see more ducks there, big ducks, cows, sheep, goats, peacock. Man, I don't know, all kind of things. And it's just, I don't know, native people have so much of food stuff, everything, plants, everything you could think about going in for the agriculture fair. The setting is tremendous. Oh, Mark, I can't even begin to tell you how in they look. I not tell and come from in there. Beautiful, Mark. Beautiful. And about over 200 people coming from Station tomorrow. And my nephew and them coming. And Mr. Brantley, it's a beauty to behold. And I invited everybody, wherever I got to, I don't have to go. Please to go into there tomorrow from 9. It's a beauty, and that is what makes me feel good. Agriculture fair tomorrow. Everybody come out there. Good night, Mr. Brantley.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I know the guys are going to do a wonderful job. It's the 25th anniversary, and I really expect big things. And so tomorrow and Friday, I anticipate are going to be very, very, very big days for the island of Nevis. And so we look forward to one and all coming out and being part of the agricultural fair there at the ETW Park. And so I have not seen it, caller. You have reported vividly to us how nice things are looking, but I anticipate it's going to be a really big event. I'm hearing that they even have a big band, I think, coming from St. Kitts. I'm not sure which one, but we'll be performing tomorrow night, I think. And they have other bands and entertainment. And so it's really a festive atmosphere. It's a family atmosphere. I'm told a lot of people will be coming in from outside. And so it's even a tourism now boost, because people, of course, will be coming and staying at the hotels and things on the island. So it's really, really a big deal. And I look forward to that. And certainly I look forward. I hope you're ready for me tomorrow, because I'm told I'm coming by you tomorrow. And you're going to be starring in some big TV show to be broadcast in Taiwan and places like that, you know. So that's what I'm told. So I hope you're ready and that you have the best that's available. If you need any help in the kitchen, you just call me, because, you know, I'm trying to get my skills up now. I'm Chef Brantley, you know, just when the people, you know, remember I started out tonight talking about people, all of life is a stage. You have the entrance and the exit. So when I exit, I want to be able to cook so that I could open a little restaurant or something, you know, and have a little something so I could survive. You understand? So if you need me to come tomorrow to cut up the onions and thing and make the goat water, then you just let me know and we organize, okay? So I look forward to that very much. Best quality that we can get, because we're going to be starring on TV, as the old people say. So it's all good fun, and we're looking forward to it, and looking forward certainly to the Agricultural Open Day, the 25th anniversary. A lot of big things are happening. It is about 6 or 7 minutes to the hour. So if you are still out there thinking about calling, you have a few minutes left that you can call and share your views. If not, we understand. Just to remind one and all again that the A1 Titans event, big track event, the relays, bringing out the best athletes in St. Kitts and Nevis, that's going to happen on the 7th of April at the Munda facility right there at Long Point, the Nevis Athletic Stadium. And before that, on the 3rd, we're going to have, of course, the massive mini Olympics, which is going to be a half holiday. They get going at midday, and all the teams are going to come out for sure, and we're going to see what team emerges champions. Let's go back to the phones and take some more calls. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Mr. Brantley?
Yes.
Do you know the United Nations is not taking any part in that, whatever happened in Venezuela?
Well,
what are they doing? Wait a minute. What are they doing? They set up facilities in Colombia, but in Venezuela itself, because I listened to a man from the United Nations, and he said if America would lift the sanction from Venezuela so they could buy food and medicine, things would be much better. But it is the sanction why they don't have the foreign currency to buy what they want for the people. Mm-hmm. That is why United Nations, they said they don't have taken any part in it.
Well, remember that Venezuela's assets have all been frozen. Venezuela has billions of dollars around the world that have been frozen. And so just recently I heard that the Venezuelan government couldn't even buy medicine to bring into the country.
That's what I'm saying.
So one, I don't think that one can argue that the sanctions have certainly contributed in a tremendous way to the suffering in Venezuela. But I am not really getting into much of a debate about the cause of the suffering. I am focused on the fact that the suffering exists. And the question now is, how do you get beyond that and get some sense of normalcy restored? And CARICOM has taken a principled position that the only way to achieve that is through dialogue and to bring the parties to the table and work it out. Whether that means, the last CARICOM statement said, whether that means referendum, a new election, or some other mechanism as agreed between the parties. I'm told that the European Union, for example, has talked about power sharing. We don't know what the answer is. But whatever the answer is has to come from the people of Venezuela. It cannot be imposed from outside. It has to come from a conversation between Mr. Guaido and his team and President Maduro and his team. And they fashion a solution in the best interest. Who knows what is best for Venezuela? Who knows better than the Venezuelan people themselves? Let's go back to the phones. It is 4 minutes to the hour. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Hey, good evening, Mark.
Good evening to you.
Mr. Premier, good night to you, and I wish you all the best.
Thanks.
This is my first time calling into your program. But that discussion that you had with that young man before about the airport, this tells you how much those from the other side felt about Nevis. No wonder Nevis was not doing good enough and did not have a good relationship with Sinkit before. And he is a good example of showing how those from the other side felt about Nevis. So you have a good night and wish you all the best. Things are better now, and it will continue to be much better in years to come. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. And for your first call, thank you for your contribution. I really do appreciate it. But I think the point is well made, caller. It demonstrates a certain view in some quarters in the country that somehow the people of Nevis are less than. Somehow the island of Nevis, it doesn't matter. Unless, of course, they need votes from up here to form a government. Then it matters. And I'm saying to one and all, everybody, in the sound of my voice, that the people of Nevis matter just as much as the people of St. Kitts. And that if we are to be in this country, and this country is to survive, then those in positions of power and those who want to be in positions of power must recognize that the people of Nevis are equal to the people of St. Kitts and vice versa. And I see nothing wrong in Charlestown being bustling and alive with business and Bastia being bustling and alive with business. I see nothing wrong with RLB bursting at the seams and Vance Amry bursting at the seams. And for those who feel that RLB should prosper but Vance Amry should shut down, I am not going to agree with you with that. That is rubbish. And all around, look at America. In New York alone, you got LaGuardia and JFK. That ain't have nothing to do with all the private airports that you have around. So the reality is that we can walk on chew gum, and that the prosperity of the country must be looked at. That is important. We must look at the prosperity of the country. Not just the prosperity of one island or the next, the prosperity of the country. I remember, when Four Seasons opened, people choose to forget. A lot of people from St. Kitts found work at the Four Seasons. Many who I now see in good positions in tourism in the country got their start at the Four Seasons Nevis. But yet now some divisions go to Park Hyatt to work, and oh, the sky is falling is the biggest problem in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, we can't have it both ways. We either one country or we're not. Make up your mind. And I believe that that caller, frankly, should feel ashamed for the suggestion that by seeing and asking for Nevis to rise, that I'm unpatriotic and I have a conflict of interest. If he in his mind had a vision of the country as a whole, then he would understand that any part of the country that rises, the rest of the country rises with it. That, ladies and gentlemen, is our show. The band has struck up. It means we have to go. The phones are ringing off the hook, but I can't help you now. I keep saying when the show starts, call early. You wait until 10 o'clock to call. That means that the show is over. The show will be rebroadcast tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Right here on Von Radio, Eastern Caribbean's only powerhouse, www.vonradio.com or 860 on your AM dial. That's our show. I wish one and all a wonderful night. Rest well, sleep well, pray before you go to bed. And I pray to God that he would allow us to see morning tomorrow. That's our show. Good night, and may God bless and keep you.